let's just check we're live. As always, let's have a little look. Have a little look, Dave. Let's check if we're live, mate.
Of course, we're live.
Um,
Are we live? Are we live? Live?
exactly. I know. It's yeah. If you have just joined us, just say hello. I'm just waiting for a few more people to come on. Let's have a little look.
Is there anybody? Eh?
I say I hope people are here this Tuesday. Yeah, if you are yeah, if you have joined us as always, do drop a comment just so we know who's here watching it live. Obviously, if you're watching it non-live and you're listening to us, yeah, I hope you enjoy it. But yeah, here we go. So Marky V, Shona, Mona, and Kurt as well. Great stuff. It's good to see a few of the regular Evertrekkers on. Um,
Do you think that's Ramona? I think it is. It says Mona, but there's a weird, what looks like a concrete Brussels sprout, and I reckon she's the only person that would have that as a profile picture because
you
it's
know
going to
what?
be
It wouldn't
part of
surprise me.
it's going to be part of some old building or something. So
You know what? I think 100% you're right there. I think it is part of an old building. But yeah, no, Andrew, Stuart, David, great stuff, guys. Great to see you on. Yeah, so today is a couple of things. We were thinking a little bit today around, um, what kind of what thing to start off discussing because we always like to pick a subject and discuss that as well as all the questions that have come in before and during the live. And yeah, today was really set in motion by this year, really, and what's happened so far, because it's just been so like I'm trying to use bigger words, but beautiful, amazing. Like just seeing people back in the mountains, excuse me, and back in on Killy, especially the last 2 weeks. We've had two groups on Killy, our first since February 2020,
mhm.
which is nuts because that's almost 2 years ago. And yeah, it kind of reminded us really, okay, over the last 2 years since we started these lives, Dave, we've always been talking about let's plan for when we can.
Yeah,
And now we were like, well, we can now. So let's plan now we can. And we
yeah.
were literally just talking about it, weren't
That's how seamless
we?
it is. But yeah, no, we would think it's one of them where I reckon there's quite a lot of people watching, listening to this now
Yeah.
that probably listen to the Let's Plan for When We Can one way back when,
Yeah.
who still haven't started planning, and now we can. And so we said, well, I think we're all probably guilty of that. So let's
Yeah.
talk about getting on it, getting on it right now. And as a wise man, and much wiser than me, once told me, he said the best time to start planning is a year ago. The second best time is right now. So you haven't
Nice.
missed the boat yet. So
Yeah.
if you are thinking about starting an adventure, about going on some awesome trip, that might be, finally getting out and getting over. Being locked inside for 2 years, or it might be something incredibly epic like summiting Everest. Either way,
Yeah.
the time to start is now. So we thought we'd dive into planning.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's because planning is, I have to be honest about this. I haven't always been a planner. I'm a bit of a doer. I get an idea and then
Mm,
I just do. I don't always think, okay, let's have this plan in front of us. To kind of think, okay, let's put those things in place to make it happen. I think as naturally, I think in life, you're not good at everything in the beginning, and then eventually you kind of pick some skills up and some
mm,
ideas, and you run with it, and then you think, okay, actually that does work. And certainly for us, over the last sort of 5-6 years, there have been certain things that have cropped up from time to time and questions, and we always like tackling these questions and questions like, right, how far in advance do I book my trip? How far in advance do I plan? How far in advance do I start my training? How far in advance, because I know finance is a big thing, in life. And some people are like, okay, when shall I start paying for my trip? When shall I start paying for flights, equipment? When shall I start saving for, certain things? And yeah, so we thought, there's a lot of conversations that can come from that. And that's
yeah,
where it stemmed for today. Because now we are able to run trips. It's amazing. You can literally, you know, uh, you could literally go, okay, call us up and say, right, have you got a day? Have you got a space free? Let's go on it, and then you can go. Look, I'm not saying there's no restrictions around the world. There are, unfortunately, but the fact is, we are running trips right now, and we're due
yep,
to run a lot more trips, especially in Nepal in the coming spring. And we are so excited about that. That now people can realize their dreams Some of you are coming on your second trip with us, maybe even your third trip, but lots of you actually going on your first trip with us. And we can't wait to welcome you. Especially over in Nepal, in Tanzania, wherever you're, in South America, because we've got quite a lot of new trips that we've created during COVID, and we're going to be sort of, obviously running them. So yeah, we're really excited about it. And Dave, where should we start from the planning point of view? I mean, for instance, Dave, I suppose to throw a question your way. I mean, are you a
Shoot
planner?
from the hip,
Not a
mate.
planner?
Shoot from the hip. I am. I like to have a plan.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I'm very lucky that a lot of the people that I'm actually surrounded by are intense planners. Andy, you say you're not much of a planner, but you are a good planner. You just,
I know. No, I am now.
You are like, you ring me sometimes and you say, Dave, keep next weekend open. We're off somewhere. And then 24 hours before, you're like, yeah, here's your flight details, here's your boarding pass. So you are a good organizer. I think one of the biggest things that I think when you're tackling a trip like going to base camp or Kilimanjaro or up some high peaks and some far off flung region of the world, one of the biggest questions is, well, when shall I book it and when do I start training? Let's start it off in the nitty-gritty. When's the best time to start training? And it's a tricky one because there's no one answer that'll fit everybody. The answer is always an individual one, but there is one part of it that is good, which is you will never start training for climbing that peak unless you've got it locked in. Yeah. So the biggest thing for me, the first time I ever wanted to go to Nepal, to the Himalaya, to Everest Base Camp, it was an idea, but nothing more of an idea for years and years and years and years. We've talked about this previously, that then me and Andy worked together for a bank, then went our separate ways. And then I saw, on Facebook of all things, that he was actually at Everest Base Camp. Now, I was like overweight, unfit, ill-equipped, uninformed, all of the things, but it didn't stop me booking the trip. So I booked it about a year in advance. A year is a nice round number, because things tend to fall in place during that year and it gives you a very definite target. So I found that as soon as I booked it in, that was actually the hardest part. And, whether that be booking a trip, whether it be deciding to book onto a half marathon or a marathon or to do the 3 peaks, whatever challenge you're looking to undertake, I think the biggest part of it is taking that leap, because you're chancing failure, right? You're betting against yourself. It's you versus failure, and you're putting the money behind yourself. Is that a safe bet? Well, I think so. I think the hardest part is making that bet, and once you've done it, you can back that up then with, with the training and everything like that, and it'll all come. And the one thing I say to a lot of people, we've had some questions from a lot of people that are, have perhaps gone through some difficulties and maybe recovering from an injury or managing an ongoing chronic condition. Always worry that they're not fit enough. And but my biggest thing to say is, well, you probably don't have to be as fit as you think you do. Fitness is always a bonus, but trust me, it's not all in the legs. I always say, and we've said before, 90% of these trips is mental, and the other 10% is mental. So so I think as long as if you get the the muscle between your ears and the base, you'd be amazed. Nims actually says something different, but we might have to beep it out. When you think you're totally beep, you're actually only 45% beep.
Wow, those beeps really perform well, Dave. I like it.
Mate, honestly, I got my finger on the buzzer really good.
Brilliant. No, you hit the nail on the head there, Dave. I mean, there's a few things, when you said there around like you booked a year in advance for your first trip. After we caught up. And I'd say a year is probably a good shout. I think it's mad because a lot of people on here who have booked, say, in 2019, go, I'm going to go in 2020. That's my year. And we're now in 2022 and you're due to go. Obviously, it didn't quite work out. You've had longer than most people would ever have to plan these sort of trips. But you know what? You're going to be, I like to think, that you're going to be the best prepared people in the mountain. You'll be the ones helping other people going, oh, what about this, guys? What about this? And coaching other people. So, you're all, if you're ever trekkers and you're on the mountains, I think you're going to be, you're already up there. More than, I'd say, 90% of trekkers that will be out in those mountains. So good on you. Just from, if you're on here every week and you're chatting about it, Dave, you always say this, you learn from osmosis, you soak up different things. when you're when you're reading or listening on a podcast or watching one of these or reading an article. You could be reading one of Nim's books. You could be watching obviously a Netflix program about it. There's loads that you can soak up advice. And it's great to see all the people on here. I mean, Dewi Davis, great to see you on here, mate. Haven't seen you on here for a while, but great to see you. Obviously, all of our Ever trackers. Obviously, the Mick and Bry and Tracy, Jerome, of course, and Diane as well. Great to see you all here. Just wing it and keep hydrated. Yeah, and we go back to planning. I do think now, and Dave mentioned there, like, okay, I am a good planner. I am now, but I haven't always been. But it's small steps. If you're booking, obviously your own flights, because with us we don't do flights. We try and help you with that. But it's good to get those locked in. I'd say if you're going on a trip, you want to book them in sort of 9 to 12 months in advance. It doesn't always work because the industry has changed a lot. These things that we say, oh yeah, if you book your flights now, they're going to be the cheapest they be. You know what? No one knows anymore. You could wait until the last minute. They have more availability because the rules change, and it's cheap as chips. You could book a year in advance and get a good deal. It really is the unknown at the moment. And as we move forward now, we'll get a bit more used to, okay, now is the best time to kind of book flights. Now is the best time to get my visa. Now is the best time to get my jabs done. All the kind of usuals that really go before going on a trip. And yeah, obviously, for us now we're running trips. It's great to see the kind of fruits of our labors, if you like.
Yeah.
All the hard work that's gone into prepping these trips and making them and planning them, and it's great now. And what is it Nim say? Let's party tonight. Tomorrow we plan. I think he says.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest. One of my favorites. Obviously, I do like a party, and now I do like planning. But it makes out of that is all about balance. You can have a good time. You can plan the trips. But you know what? There's still a part of me that has that spontaneous part, which is that, like we did a couple of weeks ago, Dave. I know we were going over to Andorra for multiple reasons. Obviously, a little bit of personal time, little bit of business time as well.
Yeah.
And we got some exciting news, hopefully in the next few months, regarding
Yeah.
the Pyrenees.
No, we didn't just spend our whole time on getting pieced.
Exactly.
But
which would have been fine. But we certainly got there's some nice, beautiful people out there. So yeah, we got some good plans, haven't we, Dave, with the Pyrenees?
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. And I think one of the things you just said, actually, this is turning into a little bit of a NIMS one. I'm sure we'll move past NIMS.
I know, sorry, yeah. I know we've been there and done that, but it's okay.
But one of the things that because talking about what you said there, I always say, like, when you immerse yourself in a hobby, I tend to have a slightly obsessive nature about myself. So whether it's hiking, mountain biking, I tend to obsess over it, and that learning by osmosis is good. I like to think the Tuesday Tune-In may play a part in that, but also other podcasts, other Netflix documentaries, other books, and other stories, and also other trackers. Everyone in the High Altitude group, the High Altitude Ever Trackers group, all of you guys teach each other all the time. But one of the things that I love is that Nims, when he was doing that trip, obviously it's an extreme example, but the message I took from it was his ability to plan during adversity, and plan through adversity. And it's something that every single one of us has had to do at least one way or another during, since the beginning of 2020, when the world got turned upside down. It's been okay for some, terribly tragic for others, and not either one of us, no matter what your sort of, your aims in life have been affected by this in one way or another. Plans have been upended, things that you've wanted to do. Why does the do you have a new base?
I thought you'd see that, Dave.
Sorry, I got distracted. This one's not new. I bought it at Bike Park Wales a little while back, because I normally have two caps that I wear. Oh God, say this again: the NIMS cap and the Evertrek cap. But sadly, I tend to wear a cap quite a lot, and they don't tend to last long. But also, I want to point out, Andy's got a new cap as well. That's not his usual. That's not his usual Patagonia one. But yeah. Anyway, I just want to say that, like, we've planned through adversity to such an extent now, and we can see the break in the clouds. The good weather and the good times is on the other side. People are going, to see Evertrackers on planes to Tanzania, reaching the summit of Kilimanjaro. You know, as I said in the email to this live, the jets are fueled, ready to take people to Nepal. And now's the time. So if you're listening to this and you've been putting off going on a trip or putting off going on that next adventure, don't. The hardest bit today would be to decide to do it. Once you've decided to do it, the rest of it is easy. The training's easy. You know, I saw an amazing Tyson Fury quote the other day. Right. He said, you can either do it or not do it. Both hurt. You know, so you may as well do it.
That's true. That's true. I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
It does, because we do get a lot of people who are, serious planners, and which is great because they're, they take it seriously. And, as a professional trekking company, we always say, do the training. As Dave said, it'll hurt if you do the training. It'll hurt if you don't do the training, essentially.
Well, it will.
And it will, but you'll have a far more enjoyable experience, especially because I think when you're on a trip, it's the accumulative buildup of fatigue and, tiredness and all the things that go with it. Essentially, if your body's in a better place, you'll have a better time, but you don't need to be Wonder Woman or you don't need to be Superman to do these things. You can, you can just plan, get it booked, get it in the diary, work towards it. Obviously, get the saving for it. And you know what? You'll be at Everest. You'll be on the summit of Kili. There's really is, it is out there ready for you now. And, now it's kind of, because we're like you guys, we're trekkers, we're climbers. We like getting out there. We're excited as well as you. I hope that kind of comes across because we want to get on these places and we're like excited. It's like we're at the start line of a race waiting for the gun to go off, but it's already gone off. Like we want to get out there as soon as we can. And we've got lots of plans this year, seeing and doing the things that we couldn't do the last 2 years, on a personal basis and from an Evertrek point of view. So, when it comes to planning, look, I think what we're kind of making out is essentially, it is important to get a date in the diary. It is important to kind of plan for the future. But also, it's okay to make a spontaneous decision and say, you know what, I'm going to go next month. Obviously, we've got space. There is the caveat of that at the moment. It is very, very busy. We're due to run our biggest season ever over in Nepal. We're due to have our biggest season ever over in Tanzania, as Dave huffs and puffs, because he knows the planning that gone.
Talk about planning, man. I spent so much, like months of my life planning other people's adventures. But hey, that's not a bad way to live your life, right? But Nepal, the Nepal and the base camp season is going to be seriously epic this year. And the closer we're getting to it now, the more and more confident that I'm coming. I've taught myself some reticence over these last few years because we've got close to the start line and been told the race has been delayed. But actually, I think now it's happening and it's, seriously awesome. Seriously awesome.
100%. Now, again, Davey, you go into there. All we've done the last 2 years in terms of Evertrek behind the scenes is planned because we haven't been able to run many trips. Okay, we had some in the autumn, training weekends in the UK, skills weekends, things like that. But now we're running trips again. There's so much that we want to do. I think, Diane's made a good point there, around, I know you guys, or just Andy, plan on trying out Machu Picchu. Any plans to do some of the other trips? Yeah, Diane, like these trips we created, especially one to Machu Picchu, because it's a route that no other company does in the UK. We're really proud of that, having these remote kind of adventures that are quieter. But we've hooked up a really good team. We've got a lot of experience running those trips. But on a personal basis, we'd love to get out there. I mean, we created these right at the beginning of, the good old sea bug. And as Dave put it in his email, now we got the travel bug. That's the one we want to feed, not the sea bug. And that's where we're at right now. So we certainly can't wait to kind of welcome you guys. However, if I know some of you on here for the first time, I did see someone put I think it's Amy Cutting. Amy, welcome. My first live tune in. EBC rolling on October. There are a lot of people who, some people haven't got things booked in their diary. Maybe they've got things booked in this year, but maybe the next couple of years a little bit freer. And something we've done, which which I'll sort of go into before we answer the questions, is that today, for 10 days, we've actually, we call it the 10-day tenor or the 10-day deposits for £10. Essentially, for the next 10 days, we are dropping our deposits from £200 down to £10 for anyone who wants to book onto a trip, any new booking that chooses monthly payments. So essentially, if you go on the website, you're like, right, okay, as an example, I'm going to pick Toubkal. You want to do an 8-day Toubkal trip at the end of the year or 2023, and you want to pay for it monthly, then you only pay £10 over the next 10 days. So we'll be dropping a bit more info on emails to everyone, but I wanted to kind of announce it, Dave, because I know we've been thinking about doing something like this for a while. We thought, why not now? Now we can do things.
Exactly. I mean, it's all come about because trips can go now. So we want to make things as easy as possible, as easy as we can possibly make it for people that want to go on these trips. And we know the majority of people tend to book on trips. The majority of people tend to spread the cost monthly. And it's about that bit that I said at the beginning. What's the hardest part of these trips? It's the decision to actually go for it. And we want to make that part one of the easiest. And one of the easiest things that we can do is make it so, it's the cost of a tenner. You'll see that, go on Amazon and find out what you can do for a tenner, and exactly. And then figure out, actually starting the trip of a lifetime. Yeah, you can't do better. So hopefully all of you guys, everyone that's listening and everyone that's listening on YouTube and the podcast after this live, remember that today, 25th of January 2022, for the next 10 days you can book on for a tenner. Bang it.
And that's it's live now. So I mean, we haven't put any communications yet because we wanted to announce first on the live, but so £10 for the next 10 days. If you wanted to get yourself booked in, but this is just for subscription people. So if you've got we have a trip for a tenner. Sorry, Bri, it costs a little bit more than that, mate. But you can book on for £10 deposit, and you're in, and you can get yourself in. And and again, we talk about planning, getting the date in the diary. Obviously, it's an opportunity if you haven't got any dates in the diary for the next few years. I know most of you have, but if you haven't, it's there. So we'd obviously any questions around that, do let us know. And it's live now. So if you wanted to go on the website and you do select payment plan, it will change from 200 down to 10. Just so you can see, and that is live. But Dave, I'm conscious, mate, because I know we've been going a while, but we've had a lot of questions come in around planning, a lot of specific questions. Should we go into them?
Yeah, why not? So the first question I'll do, I believe, came in via email from Alan Blake. Alan, nice. Welcome. So you and your son are doing Killy next February. Basically, that's as far as you know. So I take it you've let your son majority of the actual organising. And let's have a quick look. So I've lost your page. So I'll just answer these. I'll answer them, and I'll do them in a quick fire format. Okay.
Nice.
What's the best flights? Personally, I usually book with Qatar Airways. What airport do you fly into? That's Kilimanjaro International Airport in Tanzania. The code is JRO. What happens when you get there? You'll go straight into the visa hall. If you've already got your visa in advance, you'll walk straight through, hand it over, go get your luggage, walk out the airport, look for the person with the Evertrek sign, get in the car, go to the hotel, have a beer. When do you need the departure flight? So the itinerary is 11 days. Day 1 being the day you arrive, day 11 being the day that you depart. I'm just going to have a quick look now. So what did you say? The
Qatar Airways, love it. I take it the auto captions are on Facebook, which is always fun. Oh, Qatar Airways, great music.
Yeah, the best ever, best in-flight entertainment, mate.
Great stuff, Jane.
Yeah, your son needs to be back early as he can for school. They won't let him take time off even for this. That's it for now. Awesome. So hopefully, I've answered those questions for you. Our trip is an 11-day itinerary, so you'll leave technically on day 0 to arrive on day 1, and then you'll depart Tanzania on day 11.
Nice, Dave. Nice. Andrea, she emailed in around asking about Island Peak. So I know there's a few of you on the live who are going for Island Peak. Mick, I know you've been. You can't wait to do Island Peak. It's been booked in for a number of years, mate. But she's asking. She's going for the trip planner, so she must have received a planner over the last week. Yeah, we sent quite a lot of planners to all of our Evertrekkers who are due to go in the spring. Obviously, we're working through them as fast as we can. So if you haven't had yours, do let us know if you're due to go in the spring. I think until the end of May, and we're trying to get them all out ready. Because there's a very high number. But anyway, she's had a planner about Island Peak. They said, look, there are a few days where the terrain's quite slippy. Yes, it's so essentially when you're on Island Peak, it is quite glaciated, so there's a lot of ice, especially the time of year now. There's a lot of snow as well. I want to confirm, can we hire crampons? We don't need to take your own. Yeah, you certainly can. If you haven't got your own crampons, this goes for any of your gear, we can hire it locally. If you want to bring your own, that's fine. We know a lot of you do maybe ice climbing. If you're doing winter mountaineering, maybe done Scotland, North Wales, whatever you've done in the past, it helps. It's like anything, any experience you can get whilst wearing crampons will help. But if you haven't got your own, you can use the local ones. You try and pack as light as possible. Obviously asking, will that be okay? Also asked about what gloves, mittens do you recommend for Island Peak Summit? Again, they can be, if you haven't got any of those, you can get them locally in Kathmandu. It's literally a plethora of trekking stores in Kathmandu, in Tamil. Literally, it's like amazing. If for me, it's like sweet shops. I can't stop go in and have a little look at the gear and speaking to people that run it, because a lot of the people that run it are actually ex-Sherpas. So it's always quite interesting. But yeah, with mittens and gloves, when you're on Island Peak, you're going over 6,000 meters. You need to have good sort of down-filled gloves. So they need to be. They're not cheap. Especially if you buy them in the UK, you're looking at £100 plus for a decent pair of down gloves and mittens. I always prefer gloves just because it means you can use the fingers. It's like when I get ski gloves, I use them because they're really good in like down to like -20.
Yeah.
And if the weather does come in on Island Peak, which it has when we ran trips before, you need them. You need them. And Dave, I know you're a big fan of these. That when you have 2 layers, right? You have the inner layer glove, outer layer glove. Recommend that for Island Peak, right?
Yeah, 100%. I always have a pair of the liner gloves anyway, and then it just makes things so much easier, especially because sometimes your hands can sort of, once they get sort of cold and numb, you don't really notice how much sort of damage you're doing with the cold until you actually have to try and use your hands. So I always have liners and stuff like that. I'd rather be too warm than too cool. Big fan of that. Awesome.
Yeah,
I think
nice.
also as well, actually, it's worth a mention that talking about equipment for Island Peak, you will also if you book this spring. So if you have a trip up till sort of May time, I believe Lauren's been busy in a way getting all the planners out. We know some of them have arrived. You'll have the Evertrek buff. Which these claims I'm about to make are unsubstantiated, but I believe that that's the buff that will keep you alive up to -52 degrees C.
Wow, Dave.
It's completely windproof. Can stretch to form an entire cocoon. It's brilliant. But yeah, if you haven't had one, drop us a message if you go in this spring, because Lauren will get on it. I had another message question. I'm not sure who it's from, so put your hand up. Hi dudes, what do you think of this? And it's a training mask. I'm going to click the link, so this better not be some sort of weird virus.
I think that was from David. David clicked.
Okay.
Hey, David.
Weirdly, I've just clicked on that, and do you want to know the screen I've got? It's like a weird dog. So
he's a weird dog. Wow,
if it's one of those breathing masks that actually restricts the airflow into your lungs, we don't really recommend them as training for altitude. We've been down to the altitude center and they give us a little bit of advice on those. So essentially you get this exact same effect from breathing through a straw. The air that you're breathing in still has the same amount of oxygen per breath as it does without it. It's just you're getting less. So it will not acclimatize you and your body won't register that as being at altitude. There is some argument to say that it will, strengthen your breathing and kind of get you used to sort of being out of breath and things like that. So that may be of some use. The information that I've got is that any benefit you get from that will not be outweighed by the sort you won't be doing as much exercise and pushing yourself as much as you would have done without it. So I think not for me, that one, but honestly, if you buy it and you try it and you find it works, I would love to know. So please do let me know if you give it a go and it does work. But basically they don't normally call them now altitude simulation masks.
I saw that. I was at training in high altitude simulation. I always find that a bit misleading because you know, it's hard to simulate altitude unless, because breathing is essentially the same. It's not, you don't, like if any of you are scuba divers out there, when you've got you breathe in pressurized air at depth, you've got to really suck in that air. That's probably more similar to that, I'd say.
Yeah.
Whereas, because I've used similar ones, not that one particular, but I have used, breathing resistance tools, actually before the first time I went to base camp. But it was because of my asthma, and literally it just strengthens your diaphragm, which, can help. And if it helps, 1%, it's a benefit. But I would say when it comes to altitude simulation, I think it's a bit misleading. So yeah, David, tried and tested, mate. Get your body in the best, and I know you're going with a few people. Get your body in the best state you can, in terms of health. Listen to the guide, go slow, drink heaps of water, 4 liters. Enjoy yourself, have a great time. I think, all of that, in my opinion, is better than these training masks. And it's just personal opinion. I know a lot of people out there who like to use them. But, we just, from an altitude perspective, we always think that, by the tried and tested way, rather than using these supposed high altitude simulation things. Obviously, the ones at the altitude center are different because they're, like Dave said, they actually do drop the oxygen levels. Obviously quite technical equipment they use. They do actually simulate altitude.
Yeah, because it's to do with air pressure as well.
Yeah.
So the air pressure of which you're breathing that oxygen in is different. Quite scientific. More talk about gloves as well. There was one, I don't know if Mark Beecroft is on this live, but he gave a great recommendation, which is I forget the name of them now, but
excuse me.
They're basically like these woolen sort of gloves that you can get that you'd expect a farmer to be wearing up in the Isle of Skye or something, but they're really, really good. Mark, if you remember the name, because I can't pull it from my mind right now, drop it in. But yeah, they're really, really good. Quick look now. Nick Howlett, booked to go on Elbrus in July 23. With the situation in Russia, if tragically there is conflict and war, and due to its proximity to the Ukraine, what would happen to the trip? Honestly, Nick, it's unknown at this stage what would happen to the trip and whether or not there might be some travel restrictions into Russia. I know previously there was some sort of, like, going back quite a long time ago, there was an issue where I think a plane got shot down over the Ukraine, and they did limit they did limit some flights at that time. Honestly, Nick, I don't know. Hopefully that doesn't happen. We're gonna have to sort of let you know as and when we come to that bridge. Unfortunately, it's not something that we could predict. Especially given our government's information. I mean, we've been arguing for 2 weeks over what is and isn't a party. So if actual war was to break out, I honestly don't know. But we will keep you informed 100% ahead of time with the requirements. So rest assured on that.
Yeah, I think any this goes for anything. I know obviously the situation over there is a bit dynamic right now. I mean, it can change. It's like anything, I think. If there's anything that happens like that, then obviously we won't be running trips if we're not allowed there. We have to keep an eye on the restrictions, and again we'd have to reschedule it, probably similar to I hate to say the word because we said it God knows how many times, similar to COVID, in terms of if we're not allowed into a country because of restrictions, then we are lucky because we don't organize flights. We can reschedule and we do have that flexibility.
Yeah,
and that goes with Elbrus. I mean, for any reason that things get rescheduled or bumped down the road. But yeah, hopefully, I like to think certain things can get resolved. We hope so, because we can't wait to go to Elbrus ourselves.
Yeah.
Hopefully later this year in the summer. So that'd be great. But yeah, we'll keep our fingers crossed with that. But good question, Nick. Always worth asking these things, mate. And fingers crossed. Everything's cool up there. We'll see how it goes. Jim Blues, Jim, how are you doing? Great to see Jim on here. Out of interest, do many people sign up for a trek who've never hiked before? We've had a few. Yeah, we've had a few. I've actually, Dave, obviously good friend of ours now, but Tembo, who came with us to Killy, not really a trekker at all, photographer, a superbike photographer, and got to the summit of Killy, and he hadn't really been trekking much before.
Did all his training in Vegas.
Yeah, that's right. 3 weeks before we went, he was in Vegas on a Kawasaki motorbike shoot. And turned up, obviously found it hard. we go back to what Dave said earlier about what Tyson Fury said. He was definitely he didn't do any training, but he still suffered.
Yeah.
A lot of us who had done training also suffered. It's part and parcel of it. But some of us had an easier time of it than James. But yeah, it was a great trip. But yeah, we do. I mean, we always say there's no substitute for getting out, pack on your back, strapping your boots on, getting out there and putting in the mileage. It will help you because a lot of our trips are just walking and trekking. Okay, they're on consecutive days, they're long distance, but I'd say 80% of our trips are non-technical. Maybe 90% of our trips are non-technical. Obviously, there's ones we do. We want to, like Island Peak. Anytime you're on fixed ropes, anytime you're on snow, you have to use crampons or ice axe. Different types of trips. But yeah, just get out there and enjoy it. But yeah, good question, mate. Good question.
Yeah. So I had another question from Bryony Anderson, again on gloves. Wow, I love it when we sort of get sidetracked into those type of things. But can we recommend a good warm glove for Everest Base Camp and also winter cycling? So
yeah,
I think I'll be honest, the best gloves that I've found are usually ones that are designed specifically for each job. I know sealskins do waterproof warm gloves, but they're not necessarily, they do cycling ones and hiking ones. I would say that the type of insulated warm glove that you need for Everest Base Camp might be a bit bulky for actually riding a bike on. But all the gloves that we mentioned earlier are really good. One thing you might actually like, they're not particularly waterproof, but the Montane gloves that I used on Kilimanjaro, which are the small little like down jacket ones for your hands. I forgot the name of them, man. I'm losing my mind today on stuff. But what I'm going to do is when Andy's answering the next question, I am going to Google it, send it to Lauren, and she will put a comment for these gloves. Now, they're really good. They're lightweight. And actually, if you wanted to do winter cycling and it wasn't raining, those would be really good. And Shona, she's come up with it. Dachstein gloves or Dachstein gloves.
Of course, Shona. She knows her stuff.
Yeah, they're the ones that are like mittens. Yeah, I actually have a pair and they're really, really, really good. Do you know what? I don't even have to Google the Montane Prism gloves.
See the value of the collective mind.
Do you see what I mean? Do you see what I mean? Like I put it out there, they put it back, and then it bounces off to someone new. It's amazing what this community does. But those gloves, those Dachstein mitts, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I do have a set that I'll be honest with you, I very rarely wear, but they do sit in the bag and they'll get wet and still keep you warm. They're really, really good. But yeah, the Montane Prism gloves, literally, Bryony, they pack up smaller than my fist, tiny little bag, and you put them on. They're like little down jackets for your hands, and they will keep you really warm, even to pretty cold temperatures, and they're really lightweight.
Yeah, they're good. I've used a pair of them probably about 3 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago, something like that, and yeah, very good. And again, minimal weight. As Mark says, though, yeah, not 100% not waterproof, but very warm. Yeah, I've had that. Yeah, a little bit of moisture. I think we struggle to get warm and waterproof mitts or gloves. Yeah, it just happens that way. Unfortunately, like Dave said, there's ones that do either or, but not both, as we found. But there are some unusual ones out there. Dave, you mentioned about asking the next question. I'll ask one from Mona actually, because and probably an actual serious one. I know you mentioned, Mona, not happy with bloods being reviewed. So I know you've had some health issues there. What to do, body failing, but insurance informed and all paid for. Yeah, it's one of those. I think ultimately we've all got to make the decision of whether to go on these trips or not. Adventure travel is dangerous at any time, especially at altitude. It's managed. We always talk about managed and unmanaged danger. Certainly, it's managed danger. When you do drop into that equation, that you do have something that this goes for everyone. Mona, obviously, I know we know each other well. And I hope you're okay, mate. But yeah, I always cover it off with, it's personal decision. You always want to listen to medical staff because they are the experts when it comes to that. That being said, I know that most GPs aren't experts at altitude. And I always recommend speaking to people who go to altitude. That being said, if if you can get insurance and you feel okay and you want to go, because Ramona, you've been with us to Everest Base Camp, and obviously we'd love to do Kili. I know it's a big tick for you, and we'd love to make that happen. As long as you can get insurance and you're comfortable with going on a trip, we're happy to have you. We'll work with you to make it happen. We've had people with a lot of serious conditions, and that is different, and it is a different type of trip because things happen. You've got to go slower. Maybe you've got to make more allowances, but I still think you can do it personally. On a professional level, as long as you're happy and as long as you're aware of the risks, and as long as you can get insurance and we can get you off the mountain if anything happens, then you can come with us. But yeah, I hope you're okay, mate. I wanted to answer that one. Mona asked about why dollars in Tanzania. Yeah, I think anywhere that the dollar has touched historically tends to linger. You see that in Asia because anywhere like obviously Nepal, dollars rule anywhere, obviously because of maybe following on from some of the wars that have happened. But yeah, in Tanzania they just seem to love the old dollars. They always find it easier from a must be from a marketing perspective, or as a country they've decided, right, if we put everything in dollars, people will understand it.
Yeah,
I think that's why they do it. So yeah, if you get dollars, mate, it's great.
yeah.
You'll be able to use them in Tanzania.
Also, it's a currency as well, isn't it, that you can get here
Yeah.
and bring with you. The Tanzanian shilling you can't get here. And
Excuse me.
also, like this many Tanzanian shilling get you a pencil case. So that many dollars would get you a lot more. Awesome. Noticed a quick question pop up, so I'll let it skip the queue because it's one we almost talked about, which is power on the mountains, but we thought we'd save that for another day.
Dave, the power carpenter.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to
So,
call it.
Tamrin, Tamrin's off to EBC, I think, next month, maybe the month after.
Oh,
Double check.
exciting.
I do know when you're going, Tamrin. I just can't remember the exact date.
Yeah.
I actually remember speaking to you before you when you booked in. Feels like it was a long time ago now. But yeah, is there a silly question? No, there's never silly questions.
No.
Is there a particular reason anyone buys the Anker power bank over other brands? I'll be honest with you. For me, it's mainly just due to the reliability of the Anker power banks.
Yeah.
I bought my first one in 2016. It's still in my collection. It still runs perfectly fine. There are other brands out there, and I'm sure they do just as good a job, but I tend to like what I'm familiar with. They're very simple. They're easy to use. They hold their power better than some other brands in colder temperatures. It's never failed me. It's never broken. So I don't see any reason why I would go to another one. I recommended them based on my personal experience to lots and lots of Evertrekkers. They've all used them, and I've never had anyone come back to me and say that it was rubbish and it broke down and they were left without power. So that's why I would recommend. And you're going to base camp on the 16th of April. I wasn't just looking that up as I was talking.
No, Anker's, there's loads. I've got probably different versions of Anker power banks over the years. Yeah, and I remember starting using them and thinking, wow, this is great. And then obviously we've talked about them God knows how many times. And yeah, there's loads. If you Google power bank on even if you go onto Amazon, there's so many different makes now. I think they've cottoned on. I think Anker are kind of I'd say if they were a phone make, they'd be Apple, right? They're the premium version of power banks. I think there are probably lesser versions of them which might have some tweaks, some different features, but are less reliable, but are cheaper. But I think Anker, I've got three, and they're great. I think one, obviously they come in variable sizes. Usually we aim for around, I think it's like 26,800. I think MPH is kind of the default big brick size, about this big, and they power an iPhone. I think I got the 12. But several times. So just to give you an idea of, okay, if I'm away for a certain amount of time, you can charge it at different points. But if you want to take a couple, you can do. Just always be wary that if you are bringing them on trips, have them in your hand luggage, not in your hold luggage.
Yeah.
Because they're quite strict on it. And sometimes if you put them accidentally in your hold luggage, they come up on scanners, they'll take them out just because they are risks sometimes.
It's so easy done as well. I did it on the way to Andorra. Luckily, my bag made it through. But also, Brian asked a question: does the power on the mountain cover charging your phone on a plane? I'll be honest, Brian, it does if the Anchor power banks are only as good as the person using them. And if the person in control of the Anchor power bank is an idiot that brings the wrong cable, then you can't accuse the power bank of having failed. That's more of a personal failure. And yeah, it does create quite some drama on as you get off the plane.
Mate, that's why you have someone with you just in case, right?
Yeah, always travel with some backup. Always travel with some backup. Always email everything you need to your friend who has power. Yeah, awesome. Let's have a quick look. Any more cues? Laurie Moody. Can we? But I love it how people they always like this. This is a serious cue, but it's like sometimes we have silly question, then we have serious question, and then we have like joke.
Well, life's about balance, Dave. So it's all good.
Yeah, exactly. The only person that doesn't need to sort of preface his questions is Brian. We know exactly what type of questions they are. Serious Q, can we book extra days accommodation in Kathmandu through Evertrek at the end of our EBC trip? Absolutely. All you need to do is let me know your flight details. What I will then do is arrange the accommodation for the length of time that you're in the country, unless you tell me otherwise. We have a great deal and a great understanding working relationship with the hotel Aloft in Kathmandu in Tamil, and you can pay those guys directly for the extra nights when you arrive, but you don't need to book it in or make any reservations. All done for you.
Yeah, we'll do it. There's a couple of questions here. I'll tackle. I'm not sure. I hope we haven't covered it. Sorry, Joel, if we have. Trying to I tend to book flights late for trips. Yeah, mate, I'm like that sometimes. Due to go this October, was going to book July-ish. Is it wise for EBC? Yeah, I go back to what I said at the beginning. It's the unknown at the moment. You could probably get away with it, but it is a risk that the prices might go up because of availability. I like to think more airlines are going to start running more flights. Just a hunch. But I think as the restrictions now are kind of lessened a little bit, certainly in certain countries, like I think it was announced yesterday in England that you don't need to do a test when you return anymore, not even laterals, which is great. I think that's from the 4th of Feb. And, I think rolling out in around different, Wales or Scotland, Northern Ireland, this is going to, I know they're different rules, but essentially I think generally they'll follow suit. So do keep an eye on that. But yeah, just thinking about flights, I think sometimes, once the demand is there, they will be offering more. So yeah, it depends on budget, really, Joel. I think you might have to pay a couple of £100 more because you're leaving it late, or you might get away with it. You might have a couple of good deals. But yeah, let us know. It'd be interesting just to see because I know we're booking some flights, but let us know kind of roughly what the going rate is over the next sort of 6 to 12 months, guys, whether you're booking flights, whether it's like you get good deals and which airlines. Also, if it's costing a lot. I saw a quote earlier, someone had to pay £1,000 for a flight. It's just good to see where a kind of price points are at the moment, because just good to know where it's at.
Awesome. Debbie has asked a random question. Can you do the beginning of the EBC trek in good sports trainers? You're going in March 23. Hate your ankles being restricted. Obviously, as you get higher, it will colder and need to switch them, but wondered if it's possible to wear them for the first part of the trek. So, Debbie, the answer is yes, it is possible. I should preface that with we always recommend everyone wear boots because the additional ankle support provided is sort of invaluable. A lot of the trails are rocky, rooty in the early part of the trek, so quite easy to roll an ankle, and we wouldn't want you to injure yourself that early on. However, it is a personal choice. You'll see porters at that stage of the trip in flip-flops. What I'd recommend is probably some like trekking trainers instead of like sports trainers, because they do have a stiffer sole with more grip, so your ankles are still sort of free, but you're not going to feel every single little stone under your foot and things like that. A good compromise might be the Hoka One ones. They do like trail running shoes. So they're really lightweight, but they're also really soft and supportive. So they feel basically like trainers, but they are good for the trails. But glad to see that you are at least considering switching to boots as you get higher, particularly on the glacier. When you get up to Everest Base Camp and quite high, it's quite slippery. Makes a big difference. Andy himself rolled an ankle on and lucked out of it really. But I think without
my main goals.
Yeah, for tore the eyelet off his maindle,
Yeah.
and without the extra support of the boot, the ankle wouldn't have had that support. So, just something to
Yeah.
consider. But yeah, check out the Hoka Ones. Yeah, they might be ideal for you, Debbie.
Yeah, good shout, Dave. There's it is one of those peace of mind things. Bingo. Yeah, no, we obviously we talk about Maindles, and I haven't got shares in Maindles yet, but maybe I should. Or Apple. I saw a few comments. Yeah, when it comes to these, it's peace of mind. I know sometimes, and everyone's different. When you walk in, you like to think, especially over a 12-day period or a long trek, you like to think that you're always going to be concentrating where your foot placement is, and over time, it does get better and you have more confidence. But sometimes maybe your mind wanders, maybe you're thinking about something, because walking's good thinking time, and you can just forget to plant your feet. I've done it. I've done it a few times, but I've been lucky that I've been wearing suitable boots that'll cover my ankle. Otherwise, I wouldn't have any ankles left right now. Yeah, Maindles, anything with ankle cover, and yeah, certainly I know a lot of people, trail runners especially, or people who just like trail shoes. As Dave said, they'll prefer to use them on the entire base camp trip, and it's up to you guys. We can only impress on the importance of having ankle support, just because we don't want to see you 3 or 4 days into a trip and turn around because of it.
Yeah.
Where you could have covered it because of if you had ankle support. But hopefully, it doesn't happen. But yeah, just in case, always worth chatting about these things, because sometimes you don't know. You can just be thinking about something, and it takes that split second, and then it's turnaround time. So yeah, just always worth thinking, guys, about that. Again, and I know the boots aren't for everyone, and you can if you want to risk it with the others, go for it. But yeah, just worth thinking about that, definitely.
Yep. Awesome. Oh, Nick has
Yeah.
asked how's my knee. Nick, knee's doing fine, mate. In fact, the knee is the least of my problems at the moment. I've hurt my back.
What's happening, Dave?
I know. I'm hesitant to say it was mountain biking, but I went for a ride on Sunday. Nothing happened. It was it was a great ride, actually. I was on it, but
Yeah.
my back's aching. Has been quite sore for 2 days. Wasn't going to mention it, but you know me, guys. You know me. I'll lay it all out for you. But yeah, the knee's doing fine. Yeah, knee's great. Thank you for asking.
What we got? We got about 10 minutes, so we've still got heaps to do. So I'm going to fire through these, Dave.
Okay.
Take it in turns. I reckon we'll do some quick fire.
Right.
Byrony, I have a multi-trip insurance, only covers under 3,000 meters. Could I just get additional insurance for the days over 3,000? Would this be a problem? I'd say Byrony, in terms of the cost for insurance, highly recommend that you get, obviously insurance that covers you up and over the trip height that you're going to be at. Knowing insurance companies, in terms of getting it just for the days, it's always worth getting it for the entire trip, rather than just saying, I have it for that one day, just because you don't know what's going to happen. And I think if you can get it that covers you for the whole trip, I think that's the best way forward. I know obviously it's an additional cost. Hopefully, we do have Lauren's on here, put the link to our insurance article and give you a few options there. And you can have a look and see what's best. I impress on the importance of getting adequate insurance. Hopefully we don't use it, but it means that we don't have any issues then if you're trying to get any money back off the insurance company. When they're arguing over, were you there that day? Were you there that day? It just creates confusion. I think if you can just cover it, peace of mind, you won't have to think about it, and you can just enjoy your trip. That's my personal opinion. Dave, what's next?
Andy Corner, in your experience, is it colder on Killy in September or EBC? Probably, I don't know. I've been September. I went to the EBC in September and it was warm.
Yeah, I'd say Killy's colder. I'd say.
I'd probably say Killy.
On the summit.
Again, though, yeah, that's just for the summit day. Overall, Killy is not that cold on the way up. It gets gradually colder in the nights as you go higher. But they're so different. Like Killy has its own little weird microclimate, so it tends to little showers here and there, and it's always cold on top, but can be 30 degrees at the bottom. EBC again gets gradually colder as you go up, but in September is relatively mild. But it is the Himalaya, so it's changeable. You can go in September, and like one year I never used my sleeping bag. It was that warm, even in Gorekshep. And then I've been, early October, and it was the coldest trip I've ever done. So yeah, very changeable, but just go on Killy. We'll go with Killy.
Great stuff. I'm not sure if it's been answered. I think Mona asked about hiring duffel bag and sleeper bag for Killy. Any chance of hiring a good air mattress? We'll check if they're available, Dave, because I know normally because you have a mattress included,
I
but
don't
the air
believe so.
mattresses are quite technical equipment. I'd say if you're going to bring your
Yeah,
own, right?
they're quite expensive for how long they
Yeah.
last if they're being used that regularly.
Yeah.
They spring leaks, you have to tape them up and stuff like that. So yeah, unfortunately we can't rent air mattresses. I did ask the question way back when.
Right.
But good excuse to buy your own. They're really good to have.
Yeah.
Again, we did a live a few weeks back, and I think it was the stocking filler, so it would have been just before Christmas.
Before Christmas. Yeah.
Well, actually, because I
You got
haven't
yours?
cleared up the mess. This is the one I use, the Thermarest.
Everest, brilliant.
It's that big, so it's not that big. It
Quite
weighs
light.
nothing. Yeah, it like weighs next to nothing.
Yeah.
And it's see, wraps up into
Nice,
there
Dave.
nice and easy. So yeah, have a look at Thermarest. I'll be honest, they're quite expensive for what they are. You can get cheaper
Yeah.
ones, but you buy cheap, buy
Comfy
twice.
sleep.
Buy cheap, buy twice is my motto.
Nice. Marky V asked about the much cancelled Toupcal trip. Yeah, Mark, I know we were due to go on our Toupcal because obviously this was a personal thing, but very frustrating. I know we've had to move it. I think Morocco as a whole, has been kind of restricted for UK travellers. Hopefully, I've heard on the grapevine this is changing soon, as of next month. And yes, we'll be certainly in terms of going over there because I was meant to be over there for my birthday, and just doing a trip. Certainly, I'll be letting you know, Mark, once we're doing that. Get some dates. Hopefully, you can make those dates. If not, I'm sure we'll see you on a trip again. Obviously, I know you're due to go to Annapurna, isn't it? So that'll probably happen before this. But yeah, can't wait to get back to Morocco. We and anyone that's booked on Morocco trips, we can't wait to get you back there.
Sorry, I'm just being distracted by Rosie. She's
I can see. Yeah, prayer
she's
flags.
she's
Nice.
busy bodying with prayer flags over there.
Right, Dave. We got a few questions. We've got about 5 minutes, so let's spin
Right,
through these.
let's have a quick look. Francina, hey, how's it going, Francina? Hell of an
Hey,
adventurer, Francina and her daughter. Can I change Machu Picchu for this year to the ice fields for next year? Yeah, of course you can. Plenty of flexibility with our trips, so just drop the guys a message, info@evertrek.co.uk, and we can get that switched over for you.
Nice. I think Diane's asked about is one anchor power bank enough for a trip, I presume? Yeah, you could get away. I've certainly on trips only taken one at times. Just be aware, certain places you might be able to recharge. Like I know on Killy, they're quite limited with electricity, so you might not be able to charge as you get closer to the summit. We managed to find some, but again, they don't normally advertise it, and basically the huts that are up there. For the kind of locals, they don't really like to give it to the trekking people. But yeah, we managed to persuade them at the time. But yeah, I'd say maybe if you could take two, I think that would cover it.
Yeah. I didn't need to persuade me. I was sat back with my 5 power banks. I was powering the cameraman stuff, my stuff. You can get by with one, but ask yourself this question: do you want to?
Brilliant. Well, look, I think I'm just looking. Oh, here we go. There is, I think it was from Tom Massetto. Hey, Tom. Is there an arrival time when you cannot get collected from Killy Airport? One flight I was looking at arrives about 2 a.m. That's a good question, actually. Normally, yeah, because our team over there are able to pick you up generally anytime. But I do know, because it's certain early hours, isn't it? The airport have some restrictions, right?
Sorry, I was just laughing at Rosie walking into a wall there. It's a weird display. You can arrive, I think, at 2 a.m. Honestly, though, I would strongly advise you not to, because 2 a.m. gives you almost no time to go to the hotel, relax before you have to wake up the next day and do the day trip. If you miss the day trip, you'll be missing out on some awesome experience. Me and Andy were only watching the video yesterday of that we made about the day trip, and we realized that it's so fantastic. So honestly, I would say if my only option was 2 a.m., I would rather arrive a day earlier and have an extra day than arrive 2 a.m. on schedule, because it'll just mean the beginning of your trip is so compressed and short timed that you won't have enough time to sort of settle in.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I recommend. Yeah, there's better times. Hopefully, if you can find a flight that's within budget and you can get, yeah, definitely come a different time. Morning's always good. I always like morning because then you've got the rest of the day. You can chill out. You know, you can enjoy it, Tom. Sit back and meet the rest of the group. Maybe get acclimatize to the surroundings. But obviously, I appreciate it. Some flights are early hours, aren't they? And sometimes they're like, oh, that's a good one. From a price point of view. But if you can find another one that maybe in the morning, yeah, I reckon you'll enjoy
yeah.
yourself a bit better. I reckon. Just looking at, does Everest Three Peaks 3 passes include climbing the 3 peaks? Yes, Aneka. Hope all is well. Yeah, so with our 3 peaks 3 passes, essentially on the route you go, there are what we call little trekking peaks. Like one of them in particular is called Gokyo-ri, and normally we do these for acclimatization. So yes, depending on the weather, depending on the group, because lots of our 3 peaks 3 passes group, more often than not, they'll do all of them. Yeah, and it's quite good actually. But sometimes I know there was one group in particular. I think a couple in the group weren't feeling that well at the time, so they skipped out on one of them. And we always look at the collective like that. Sometimes we got the ability because of the size of the group. We have assistant guides, and we have some porters that are maybe training to be assistant guides that they can. If a couple of people aren't feeling it, they don't have to do that. One of the peaks like Gokyo-ri, and they can just chill at, for instance, that's near Gokyo Village. And the others, the want to, they can go and do it and then come down. But other people just choose to rest. But we're very flexible around that, depending on weather, depending on the group dynamics and how people are feeling. Because the big goals are the passes and getting to Mount and Everest Base Camp. So, yeah, we'll definitely. It's a good question though to finish off. Yeah, just looking at all the. Any other questions, Dave? Or we
Jerome has
winding down?
said, can we have a tune in about hotels in Moshi, Kathmandu, and elsewhere? Yeah, why not, Jerome? It's a good idea.
That's a good idea. I like it.
Yeah, I think we'll do it. We'll do a hotel one. We'll see what we got on next week. But
Wow, next week's already done. We're organised this time. We got a good one planned for
valid
next
point.
week.
Yeah,
Very,
so
very good one to excite you.
in the near future, we'll do one on hotels, Jerome. Don't
Yeah,
worry about that. We'll maybe even get some pictures Andy can bring in and stuff like that, so you can see.
definitely, Dave.
Yeah,
Definitely.
awesome. I think that's it.
Definitely, it's. I think we've gone through all the questions. I hope, yeah, just to sort of cover off today, really. I know we got gone quite slightly over time, but I hope in terms of talking about this planning now, we can make sense. Now we are able to travel to get back to doing what we love. We hope that obviously you guys can get back doing what you love as well. If you do want any questions at all, obviously do drop us a message, info@evertrek.co.uk, or the little messenger on the website. And as I said earlier, for the next 10 days, it's £10 deposits on all of our trips if you want to go on to monthly payment plans. So yeah, we'll send more info on email, but obviously wanted to let our Tuesday tuners know first. And yeah, hopefully if you want to go on a trip, you want to lock in dates. We've got some dates, especially for Everest Base Camp, all the way up to 2025 now. Yes, we are organised. And yeah, get yourself on a trip, guys. Now we can do these things. We can get these things in the diary, right, Dave?
Yeah, that is true. I'm getting the virtual elbow in the ribs again to clarify something. So I thought you meant 2 a.m. on day 1, which would technically be early morning of day 2. If you arrive at 2 a.m. sort of, 2 hours into day 1, then yes, you'd have all night to sleep and stuff like that. So that would be preferable. So yeah, you can do that.
Yeah. Tom, definitely, mate. Leave it after, say 6 a.m. Anything after that, mate.
But still, I just wouldn't recommend it. It's a lot easier to arrive during the day. Lots more of the airport services are open if you need any assistance. Tanzania being what it is, sometimes things can get a little bit sort of crazy. You want someone there you can talk to. I would recommend definitely arriving earlier.
Exactly. Nice.
Later.
Earlier, I was going to say earlier, later.
I need a sandwich.
I was going to say hunger has struck you, Dave.
Yeah.
But look, great guys. Yeah, we'll see you next Tuesday. Anything you need, just drop us a message. And yeah, now get planning, and now you can.
Awesome. Take it easy, guys.
Cheers, guys.